Hello everyone, good day. For today we are going to discuss about the homeless to Harvard, the Liz Murray story. This one is based on a true story where Liz Murray is a young girl who is taken care of by her loving but drug addicted parents. She becomes homeless at 15, and after a tragedy comes upon her, she begins her work to finish high school. So this young daughter of drug abuse parents was raised in poverty, and she survived alone on the streets. And one day she decided to reclaim her life, and this is her true story which you have watched last time. So as a student at New York's Humanities Preparatory Academy, and the winner, of course, of a New York Times scholarship to Harvard, Liz Murray reflects on where she is today. Her current status is more than an achievement for her, and it's just a miracle. And having been raised in abject poverty by drug addicted parents, namely Peter, which is in real life Michael Riley Amistad, and Gian, who is Kelly Lynch or Charles Angles, Liz was left to fend herself, and conditions worsened still when her mother contracted AIDS, and she returned to live out her last days in the nightmare world of her own abusive father. Well, at the age of 15, the young girl's life was in a downward spiral. She was hopeless and afraid, living on the streets with her best friend, Chris. And Liz needed something to scare the life into her. So profoundly affected by her mother's tragic passing, Liz was forced to look at her future, and at the encouragement of her father, she returned to high school. Then, on a school trip to Boston, Liz visited Harvard, and she just realized her new dream. And what it took to make it real was a testament to an indomitable human spirit and to the incredible will to survive against all odds. So, one young woman's personal struggle becomes a very incredible portrait of survival and success in the timely, inspiring true story entitled Homeless to Harvard by Liz Murray. But before we delve into the story itself, let me just ask you these questions so you would ponder upon it. Have you ever experienced difficult situations in life? If yes, how did you overcome them? If not, then how would you overcome those challenges if you were in a bad situation like Liz Murray? So these are the questions that I would like you to ponder upon as we go along with the story. But before that, let's get to know who the author is. So Liz Murray was born on September 23, 1980 in New York City. Her real name is Elizabeth Murray. In her early life, her parents were addicted to drugs. Her mother got AIDS and she seldom attends school. So, a few people are born resilient, but Elizabeth Murray or Liz Murray is one of them. Her parents, of course, again, were cocaine addicts who spent most of the family's money on feeding their habits. Liz explains that as a result, she and her sister were neglected, and the girls often lacked food and warm clothes to use. And by the age of 15, Liz became homeless. Again, her mother had died of AIDS, and her father was on the streets. And Liz made a vow to herself after her mother's death that her life would be different from now on. She refused to end up like her mom and decided that the best way to avoid that fate was to go back to school. After that, she adhered steadfastly to her plans. She excelled in her high school courses in an accelerated 2-year program, and she won a highly competitive New York Times scholarship for those who are in need, especially the students, and she gained acceptance to Harvard University. After that experience, Liz describes her childhood apartment as a dirty place. Drugs were very present everywhere, and when they were done, there was like blood spots all along the walls from where they had missed veins, and her parents were so desperate for a fix. They would sell anything they could for a few extra dollars. And Liz once woke up and found that her mother had sold her sister's winter jacket. And Murray was the only member of the family who had a job. And at age of 9, imagine that she started bagging groceries and pumping gas for a living. And then when Liz was 10, she was told her mother had AIDS. And in the years that followed, as her mother struggled with full blown AIDS and tuberculosis, Liz helped in caring for her. When her mother died in the year 1996, Liz says that the impact of that loss became a turning point in her life, and something in her shifted, and she figured out what she needed to do. And despite the dismal grades, Liz was accepted at Humanities Preparatory Academy, or this is a public high school. So the school did not know she was homeless, and she plunged into her studies, and she took a double load of courses just so she could finish in time. And despite the fact that she had no home and studied in a stairwell, Liv thrived and did her best in school. The experience was just everything she hoped it would be, and she really loved learning and studying. And then Liz Murray applied for a New York Times scholarship offered to those needy local students. She had never read the paper, but the scholarship seemed perfect for her. And the Times was looking to make a difference by helping kids who had overcome obstacles. And her story apparently came through loud and clear to everyone. When it was March that month, it was announced in the paper that she had won the scholarship and that she would receive $12,000 for each year of college. The stories further about the winners also touch a chord in other New Yorkers, and readers of the New York Times were so moved that they donated an additional $200,000, which is enough for 15 more scholarships. Now Liz will use her scholarship money to study at Harvard University. She says when she visited the campus with her high school, she decided that attending Harvard was a goal within her reach. And she said, "Why can't this be mine if I really want it? What makes everyone else in this place different?" So that's what she asked. So Harvard agreed that Liz Murray belonged at the university and accepted her as a member of the class of the year 2004, if I'm not mistaken. So her reaction to the acceptance letter was to scream with delight. And she said, "I felt like I had wings. I felt like I could do anything. So that's what she said. And when she looks back on where she has come from and the burdens her parents gave her, Liz Murray says that she is neither bitter nor angry. And despite all their deficiencies, she says she feels her parents made her feel loved, and she understood from an early age that they had a disease that prevented them from giving her more than they did. And she misses having her family together. And her father, on the other hand, with whom she is now close, has developed again AIDS. And Liz says she doesn't feel like she has moved past the events of her childhood. Rather, they have stayed with her and are part of everything about who she is now. She has learned from her experiences and makes use of the lessons. So let's now move on to the summary of the story. So Liz Murray again rose from some of New York's meanest streets to graduate from the Ivy League and has become an international speaker to this day. But some of her earliest memories are of her parents again spending their welfare payments on cocaine and what else, heroin, when she and her sister were starving. She said, "We ate ice cubes because it felt like eating, and we would even split a tube of toothpaste between us for dinner." So just imagine those experiences that she has to come through. And when she became homeless at 16, as well as stealing food, she would shoplift books, self-help books, if I'm not mistaken, and study for exams in a friend's hallway. Now, some of the works of Liz Murray, namely Breaking Night, A Memoir of Forgiveness, and then My Journey from Homeless to Harvard, have burst onto the New York Times bestseller list. And it's hailed as a white knuckle account of survival. And it is to be published in Britain on the month of January. So, born in the Bronx, Liz Murray watched her parents mainlining coke all day. She said, um, non-verbatim, "Both my parents were hippies. By the time the early 1980s came around and I'd been born, their disco dancing thing had become a drug habit, and that's the experience she has recalled. She even talks about frequently about how much she loved them and how much they loved her, and how they were highly intelligent but they rendered hopeless at parenting by their drug dependence and consequent poverty. She also remembers her mother stealing her birthday money, selling the television, and even the Thanksgiving turkey a church had given them to scrape together money to score a hit of coke. And then Liz would turn up to school lice ridden and was bullied for being smelly and scruffy and eventually dropped out. And her mother's mantra was, "One day life is going to be better." Then she would spend all day throwing up and being nursed by her daughter, or slumped in withdrawal, arms tracked with needle marks. And when Liz was 15, her mother revealed that she was HIV positive and she had AIDS. And not long after that, she died and was buried in a donated wooden box. That's how complicated their life was before. And so when Liz's father failed to pay the rent on their flat and moved to a homeless shelter, Liz was out again on the streets. Her sister got a place on a friend's sofa, but Liz slept on the city's 24-hour underground trains or on park benches. At first, she saw herself as a rebel and a victim, but then she had an epiphany. She said, like my mother, I was always saying, I'll fix my life one day. And it became clear when I saw her die without fulfilling her dreams that my time was now or maybe never. So, those are the powerful statements she recalled. So, she had nowhere to live after that and had not attended school regularly for few years. But at 17, uh, she pledged to become a straight A student and completed her high school education in just 2 years. She even did a year's work a term and went to night classes. And a teacher saw her and mentored her. When she took his top 10 students to Harvard, she stood outside the university and instead of feeling intimidated, she admired its architecture and decided it was within her reach. And then she heard that the New York Times gave scholarship to the needy students. She graduated and Oprah Winfrey gave her a Chutzpah Award and she met Bill Clinton. She has talked at events alongside Tony Blair, Mikhail Gorbachev, and the Dalai Lama. She talks to teenagers about resisting the temptation of drugs and gangs, which is very true to her story. And she also urges them not to use childhood hardship as an excuse not to take opportunities. And when her father died in 2006 because of AIDS, his saving grace was that he encouraged her to read and stole books from libraries to give her a love of literature. And as of now, she doesn't want her appearance now and her Harvard degree to fool anyone. She said, I was one of those people on the streets you walk away from. So these are a story of inspiration and admiration for someone who went through a lot and succeeded at the end of her story. Now, what is the lesson that we can learn from the story? So, Liz's story is a lesson of hard work, forgiveness, optimism, self confidence, and living in the present. It is a wonder how she forgave her parents despite being neglected, and instead of blaming them for a miserable life, she set her eyes on higher goals and opportunity always knocks the door when we are prepared. So sometimes life seems to be a raw deal, but we should understand that many others are fighting tougher battles than us, and you should never let problems come in the way of dreams because problems fade away with time and success stays forever. And her inspiring life story proves that how one reacts to their problems is the deciding factor of success or even failure. Again, Liz is a very inspirational person because she spreads a message by saying that no matter how deep of a mess one is in, everything is possible as long as one believes and works hard towards that goal. So that is the story of Liz Marie. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you have gotten relevant information and inspirational messages from her. Thank you.